Up next, one of the greatest voices in hard rock history tells us his origin story, as well as forming a band that many called America's answer to Led Zeppelin, as well as the story behind his biggest solo hit before joining the mighty Van Halen. An always insightful interview with a Red Rocker is next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. If you want the stories behind the stories of rock and roll, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, you'll dig this channel. Just subscribe below right now, and do make sure to check out our new merch, including our brand new Vintage Years collection. This is 1984. This is where we have the big four of a classic year in music, caricatures of them, very cool. Check these out. Also check us out on Patreon for even more content. Both of these things help us curate this channel to provide you with more interviews, more videos. So it's time for another edition of our series, Revelations, where featured artists and legends go very deep into their greatest songs and their greatest albums. Today's guest, always a riot. You know, when David Lee Roth and Van Halen parted ways, there was no question that the vacant lead singer position left a giant hole in the rock and roll ozone. Diamond Dave was one of the driving forces behind Van Halen's rise to the top of the charts and the sold-out arenas. I mean, not many bands have been able to muster such a loss whenever their lead singer leaves. I mean, to that point, really, the only band that had kept their momentum after losing their frontman was AC/DC. Well, after the dust settled, Van Halen welcomed the Red Rocker Sammy Hagar into the fold, and he helped keep that momentum with Van Halen. They actually had 4 straight #1 albums. It started with the spectacular 5150. I remember when Sammy Hagar joined Van Halen. I was like 9 or 10 years old. I remember a few of my friends said, wow, who's this new frontman? He seemed to come out of nowhere. He can really well. And of course, I had to laugh because, as many of you are aware, Sammy Hagar had a long career before he stepped into the mighty Van Halen. I knew about him because my dad had that first Montrose record. I knew about his solo stuff due to the metal mags that I bought with my meager allowance, like Circus. You remember those magazines. I mean, the first Montrose record was a scorcher, and at the time, many called the band America's answer to Led Zeppelin. Marketing, but Montrose was very cool. I mean, after cutting his teeth with the likes of Van Morrison, Herbie Hancock, and Edgar Winter, Ronnie Montrose formed his namesake with Denny Carmassi on drums. There was Bill Church on bass, and Sammy, known then as Sam Hagar, actually. Montrose self-titled is one of the most influential early metal albums. In fact, many experts and critics call it the first American heavy metal album, which is arguable. But what isn't arguable is the quality of the music. I remember that cover because my dad had it, like I said. My dad's record blew me away. The songs, Rock Candy. Bad Motor Scooter. Space Station number 5. Rock the Nation. This was a special record. Well, up next, Sammy tells us about his days in Montrose, what motivated him to pick up a guitar and start singing in the first place, and about his biggest solo hit right before going with the Van Halen brothers. It's really a can't miss, like all of his interviews. Now, as we go into this interview, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, that helps to make this possible. The brand of glasses I'm wearing right now, I always wear. You really should go to Zenni.com, where you can design your own glasses and you can do a virtual try-in. This is where you can see how you look before you buy, and make sure to add blue blocks. I say that all the time, but they protect your eyes from digital blue light. It's been a game changer for me. You're going to be blown away as well at their amazing prices. Here's the story from the Red Rocker. One of my heroes. It's pretty cool to interview rock stars, number one, but number two, to sit down with somebody who I've always Always love their music. 11 number one hits on the rock charts if you combine what you've done singly and with Van Halen, which is number 2 of all time.
Wow.
On the rock charts. And the voice heard round the world, one of my favorite voices of all time, Sammy Hagar. Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Cool.
Yeah, man. Great
Welcome to Hagar Land.
I know. We're actually at your studio.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Chickenfoot. We did our 2 records here, and I did I've done a few records here. And
so the Red Rocker here. Let me ask you a question about the very, very beginning, because you've done so much in your career. What was it for you when you were growing up, whether it was a song that you heard, something you saw on TV, live show, whatever, a record that kicked open the door to your mind and made you want to pursue music? Do you remember a moment?
Absolutely. First time I saw Elvis Presley on the Ed Sullivan Show, or it might have been Milton Berle's show, whatever show he was on first, his debut. You ain't nothing but a hound dog. And I was young. I mean, as a kid, 4 years old, but I had big sisters that were teenagers, and they were going nuts. And I'm watching this, and I'm going, that'd be a pretty cool thing to do. What if I could do that? I swear. The light went on, and I used to take a broomstick and a broom, and my sister would go. They'd put on Hound Dog, and don't be cruel, man. I'd do 20 performances, man, for them. And they'd start combing my hair like Elvis, and so. It got good to me. And then I didn't do anything about it until I heard the Stones. Then when I heard, the Beatles, I Want to Hold Your Hand, all that stuff. That was my high school. I was, chasing chicks, just getting hip to girls and all that. And so that provoked me. But then I started singing the Stones songs because a buddy of mine had a guitar. And we would do, early The Last Time and some of the songs by the Stones. And then I just started doing it. And once I started doing it, I never stopped. I was so focused, I had my nose to the grindstone, man. I was just one-dimensional. I went where the music was, and like that, just followed my instincts, and I never had a business plan, never had a backer, never had anything. I just kept falling into different situations. I'd fall into a different situation. Then eventually I fell into the Montrose lap, and I started that band and shook hands. I said, I got a drummer. He said, I got a bass player, Bill Church, and I had Denny Carmassi. And next thing I know, I was making a record and going on tour, and I haven't stopped since.
Actually, I'm glad you went into Montrose because you were in a lot of different bands before that. I mean, all these different types of bands.
Yeah,
I mean,
pretty much cover bands.
But Montrose, tell me about that first time going out on tour. What was that like?
Oh man, I couldn't even sleep. We shared rooms. So Denny Carmassi and I had a room, and Bill Church and Ronnie had a room for a while. Then we got tired of each other and we started switching it up. But actually, the thought of staying in the cheapest hotel, the most flea bag, filthy place you could find, and every night doing a show, 7 nights a week, no days off. Driving in a station wagon, all of us with a tour manager who was a tour manager, lighting director, sound guy, everything. And it was just, and one truck driver, one little truck, long story short, I guess, is that I loved it. We were having a good time, but at the same time, it was like, it was some rough going. No money. My house I had, my rental house the phone got shut off within 2 months in the first tour. Couldn't pay the thing. We weren't making any money. We were getting $10 a day per diem. That's all we had to eat. And I was the happiest guy in the world. You try to get me to do that today. I don't think for any reason I could do it. But yeah, that was.
But every night going out playing your music, man.
30 minutes. Yeah, we played the first album. The album was actually probably a little bit longer than that, but we played it so fast. It was, 4 songs on each side. The old thing, you couldn't do more than 20 minutes or 15 minutes a side, otherwise you lost the low end. So we wanted it to be big and fat. So we just wrote 8 great songs. Probably if that first album, if we'd have tried to write 12 songs, it wouldn't have been as great a record.
So let's talk about the solo career. I mean, you leave Montrose, you start your solo career. One of your big first hits was Your Love Is Driving Me Crazy, went to number 13. Tell me about going solo. What were you thinking?
Well, I was thrown out of Montrose, so I didn't go solo. I would have. I'm a band guy. Solo artist stuff was given to me, and I inherited it somehow. It fell in my lap because when I left, when I was thrown out of Montrose, I made some demos that were for the second Montrose album, which was Silver Lights, and that made off the first album. A couple other songs, and so I gave them to a record company, and I got a record deal, and I didn't have a band. It was brand new. I was just thrown out of the band, and next thing I know, I had a record deal, and with Capitol Records from John Carter, who's signed me, and I didn't have a band, so I signed to Sammy Hagar. So then I started putting the bands together, and I was always losing members because I couldn't pay anybody because I couldn't pay them any good wages.
Doing some of these cover songs, sitting on the dock of the bay and things like that.
On the dock of the bay, watching the time.
Yeah, John Carter as a producer and a writer was a very top 40 oriented, and I came from FM.
Yeah. Oh,
Montrose didn't even release a single, and so I wanted to continue more like Montrose, and they were really pushing me to get a hit. And when my first album, I didn't really like that first album. It was way too eclectic. Had pop tunes and heavy metal tunes and space tunes and weirdo songs.
Heavy metal, Cinderella, sudden death, now the thrill is gone. Blue sky, that's where flamingos fly.
Yeah, I've never thought of myself or ever even wanted to be a pop artist. I never did. Top 40 didn't appeal to me. I liked the bands that had a freak top 40 hit, like even the Stones. They were a hard edge band, and they had really a great song that was good enough to cross over. To be one of those bands like the Carpenters or something who I really respect. But I never wanted to be that. No, I didn't want to be that guy up there going. I wanted to be up there banging and be a tough guy and have an edge. And
you're an artist that's on a very, very short list of having a top 50 album or being part of a top 50 album for like 5 different decades.
Well, yeah, John Carter, when he started managing Chickenfoot, he was doing all this research, and he came up with it that there's really a handful, Clapton and George Harrison and, Neil Young. I hate to even put my name in that league, but I guess there's just only been a few of us that have platinum careers in 5 different areas.
It's really incredible.
It's pretty honorable,
Yeah.
man. I'm impressed, but I'm not. My ego will not go there. I hate to even see my name in that league because those guys are my heroes, man. I don't belong with those guys. They're my heroes.
Let's talk about I Cant Drive 55. That's a song. It wasn't even your biggest hit as a solo artist, but it is a song that everybody remembers.
And it was such a natural song. When I was coming back from my first big vacation, I'm rich and famous, 1983, right. So I take my family, I go to Africa. Did the whole tour of all of Africa and was there 6 weeks gone. Come home, I leave from Kenya to London, like 14-hour flight, change planes, get on the Concorde, which I was really splurging. Make it to New York, change planes, all that traveling, 24 hours I've been traveling, 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm driving a rent-a-car to Albany, from Albany to Lake Placid, 4-lane highway, not a soul. I'm going about 62 miles an hour exactly. Cop pulls me. Well, what? I didn't even know while I was gone the speed limit changed. I'm sitting there. I was just so burnt. I was just exhausted. I just handed him my driver's license, handed him the rent-a-car stuff. He starts writing it up. And the guy said, how fast was it? 62. I said, I thought it was 65, And he's going, we give tickets around here for 62. Where have you been? I went, Africa.
Yeah.
I look over to my wife. I take the ticket. I hand it to her. I go, I can't drive 55. Get to my house, wrote the song.
Oh, man.
I mean, 4 o'clock in the morning, I picked up my guitar. I just wrote that damn song.
When there's too much traffic, I can't pass, no.
it came that quick, And I played it for John Kalodner, and he went nuts. He just, this is a smash, this is the one, we've been waiting for this at Geffen Records. And I didn't see it. I thought, hey, it's cool. It's a little gimmicky. But it was so true. And I was coming back to start rehearsal for HSAS. I played him everything that I'd written over there, all my lyrics, and Giza and Valley of the Kings, and some of these other cool songs that made the album. And Neil said on 55, he went, man, that's you. Because I was going to give it to HSAS. He goes, man, that's just you, man. You keep that one. Not that he didn't like it. It's just that he saw that it was written. Like, in other words, because Neil and I co-wrote everything. So he didn't want to do a song that I had already written. And vice versa. I would have said the same thing to him. But anyway, it was just coincidence. Because if HSAS would have done it live, it may not have been as big a hit.
The video is definitely iconic in people's minds.
It was a lifestyle career song for me. It wasn't a hit. It was like Stairway to Heaven for Led Zeppelin.
Right.
That song wasn't a top 40 hit,
No.
I don't think. I mean, but it was a
It was
career
never
song.
released as a single.
Yeah, career song. So 55 was a career song for me. It just created my persona, a maniac.
Let's talk about when you came into Van Halen, because Neil actually told me last week that he's like, you need to ask Sammy about this because he always tells a story about the mechanic, but I had something to do with that too.
Okay, Neil. I don't remember Neil having anything to do with it, but yeah, the mechanic, Claudio Zampoli, who, he was working on Eddie's Lamborghinis, working on my Ferraris.
Oh, this thing is running great. It's just running great. It's so smooth into the curves. And then what'd you do, Claudio?
Dave quits. Eddie sees my car in his showroom there because I was on tour doing the VOA tour, just coming home from the VOA tour. And my car was there, and who's that? That's Sammy. Claudio, you should get him in the band. That simple. Eddie said, do you have his phone number? He goes, yeah. Eddie called me from the shop. Neil got in there somewhere. Who knows? Neil might have run into Eddie somewhere and said, you should get Sammy. I had a little premonition I wrote about in my book, Red, about that I was sitting at dinner with my ex-wife, and the phone rings, and it's Ted Templeman, and talking about making my next record. And he goes, wow, man, you hear David Lee Roth just quit Van Halen? I said, really? He quit? He goes, yeah. I'm going, wow, what an idiot. And sat back down, and I said to my ex-wife, she's the only one that knows this, only one I said it to, but like I said, I talked about it in the book. I said, they're going to call me.
Oh, wow.
Because it just, when it was that fresh in my brain, I thought, well, they're not going to quit. This is Eddie Van Halen. He's just starting, And I said, and I think, who could they call? They're going to call me. I'm one of the three. Me, Dio, or Ozzy.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Leave us a comment below about Montrose and Sammy Hagar. What are your memories of these songs and this time in music leading up to joining Van Halen? What were the first hard rock albums that you owned? Let us know in the comments section below. Also, don't forget to check out our Vintage Years Collection merch, all dedicated to the greatest year in pop music, 1984, in my opinion. Now, if you like our content, we do invite you to be a full-time subscriber on this channel. You can do that below. And also check us out on Patreon. That helps us keep the music alive. Very important. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe out there.